Hello everyone, welcome to another build video. In this one, to go ahead and show you guys my Arc 3.0 Titan build that I've been running around with in Crucible. And this is probably my favorite Arc 3.0 build of any of the classes. And probably my favorite build overall to play when I'm playing sixes or I'm playing threes or whatever I'm playing. I think this build works very, very well inside of all activities. And I think you guys will really, really enjoy it. So without further ado, let's get running on to the build. But before we go into aspects and supers and abilities, I want to go ahead and talk about my exotic choices and things like that, my weapons. First things first, weapons do not matter with this build. This build is very, very user dependent. You can use whatever kind of gun or build that you want to use in terms of weapons. But I will say that this build pairs very well with shotgun aping or just getting in the enemy's face. So if you like sidearms, if you like shotguns, if you like SMGs, this would be a great build for you. And kind of the same thing with the exotic. If I'm going to use an SMG, I'm going to use something like the Peacekeepers. Now, this isn't a great role, the Peacekeepers, but I digress. That doesn't really matter. This is a decent pair. It's not terrible. It's not great, but Peacekeepers would work very, very well with this build in particular. And I could still get to 9, 10, 9, 10, and 9, so that's pretty good there. So if I want to use Peacekeepers and SMGs, you can use that. But mainly, I like to run shotgun, so personally, I like the Dune Marchers for pushing with my shotgun and using my melee. So that's really it when it comes to exotics, but now I wanted to go ahead and talk about the actual subclass itself. And I'm going to explain why I use everything in as best detail as possible and explain all my fragments and aspects and things like that. So without further ado, let's get right into the subclass. So for my super, I pick Thunder Crash. I think Thunder Crash is 10 times better or 100 times better than Fists of Havoc. Doesn't mean Fists of Havoc is bad, and you could definitely use it if you want, but I think that Thunder Crash overall is better. For one, you have a way shorter cooldown with 8 minutes there. I only have 2 intellect, but that is what it is. It's almost it's almost a minute difference in your actual cooldown. So you're gonna get the Thunder Crash super a lot quicker than you are the Fists of Havoc in PvP. Also, if you get good at maneuvering the Thunder Crash, you can get just as many kills in air with Thunder Crash than you can just as with Fist of Havoc, but you're getting it quicker. Also, Thunder Crash is a great super cleaner or killing supers. You are very, very good at killing supers in air, on ground, whatever. Any roaming super that isn't a spin to win arc hunter, you probably will kill them. So that is very nice with Thunder Crash, and that's why I like to use it. It's just so versatile. As for our abilities, I've been running Thruster a lot. This is a really, really good one. The amount of maneuverability, or the maneuverability on Titan with Thruster is so good and so worth it that I think that if you're not using Thruster, you definitely want to go ahead and give it a shot. It's pretty similar to a Hunter Dodge, but it's in first person. So if all my hunters who want to convert to Titan, this is where I would start you with. You can definitely use things like Towering Barricade or Rally Barricade as well if you still want to live into that barricade fantasy, but I think the maneuverability on Thruster is just so good to just not, I just think it's too good to pass up on. It is very, very strong, very good. You can peek corners that you wouldn't normally peek because you have a way to get away from the fight, and that is why I like Thruster. So Strafe Jump is fastest, that's why I'm using Strafe Lift. Seismic Strike. In my opinion, none of these melees are very good. I think Seismic Strike is the best one. It's not too bad, mainly because you can use it in a lot of different ways. For one, it's great for pushing people. When you get that shoulder charge off, it's going to blind people. They're not going to know where you're at. That's really nice. Also, you can use it again as maneuverability. If you're on the floor or on the ground, you are able to use it kind of like a dodge in air. So I really, really like using that. I try to stay away from things like Thunderclap because Thunderclap, though it is really fun and it can one-shot, it takes a lot to charge it to a one-shot, and any good player is going to be easily able to dodge it. So I think that for what it is, it's a lot of fun, but not super great overall. And then the thing with the Ballistic Slam is very fun. And it is good, but I feel like the problem with Ballistic Slam is if you have a good sniper on the enemy team, when you use that melee in air, you are a sitting duck. You are not moving. Though you come down extremely quickly, and if they're not able to line up that shot, you're good. But I just feel like the shoulder charge, you have better maneuverability than the Ballistic Slam for one. And when I use the Ballistic Slam as maneuverability instead of an actual melee, I lose the charge. So definitely not super fun for me. I just don't really like being that stationary in air. It gives people free shots on me. It's still not bad to say the least, but not my cup of tea. As for our aspects, I like to run Touch of Thunder. This is going to buff our grenades. Oh, sorry. Speaking of grenades, using Lightning Grenade. There's a lot of different grenades that you can use. And talking back about the Touch of Thunder here for a little bit, you can use any one of these nades that you want. I just think that with the build and with the fragments I've set up, that lightning nades actually pair the best with this because they now jolt people, which is extremely nice. And it hits off that initial blast. So if I'm able to get that initial blast off on someone, it is going to jolt them, and that is extremely good. Though pulse grenades are also extremely good as well. So in between pulse grenades and lightning grenades are definitely going to be the move there. But I do like lightning grenades because they give me an extra one as well. So definitely for me, I like to run lightning nades. But back again on the aspect, like I said, you can use any one of these that you want. As for my other aspect, I'm running knockout. Pretty much what this does is critically wounding a target or breaking their shield, infuses your melee attacks with arc energy, and increases your melee range in damage for a short time. And defeating targets with melee attacks starts health regeneration and makes you amplified. So, that is why we are running Striker. Or, sorry, Knockout. Or just shotguns in general. So, any melee kill, I'm going to get amplified. That's going to give me a speed boost. That's really nice. But getting that infused melee is really nice as well, and that increased the range. And with the way I have my build set up, I'm going to get increased damage with my melee. So if I am surrounded or something like that, and I'm going to get a melee, someone melees me, I might be able to get a one-tap melee off on that. So super good. As for our fragments, running Spark of Resistance gives you plus 10 to strength. Very, very nice there. So while I'm surrounded by combatants, you are more resistant to incoming damage. This does work in PvP, though it says combatants, just so you know. Pretty much this is really good for shotgun aping teams. If you do have a team that likes to get in there and push, you can easily do it. And with Dune Marchers, you're able to get multiple kills off of one melee. So for me, Spark of Resistance is really, really good. Keeps me alive just a little bit longer, but it does also give me a plus 10 to strength, which I really like as well. Next I have is Spark of Recharge. So every single time I'm critically wounded, my melee and grenade energy regenerates more quickly. This is really good, again, for shotgun aping or just getting into the enemy's face because chances are you are going to get weak. So because you are going to get weak, why not have a little bit more ability energy while you're at it? Next one, Spark of Ions. Defeating a jolted target creates an ionic trace. So, seeing as my grenade can jolt people off the initial hit, if I kill the person who I jolted, then I am going to be able to get ionic traces, which gives me more ability energy. So this one I actually used to use, is one of these ones. I think it was this one right here. I use Spark of Magnitude, which makes our lingering arc nades last longer. And if you use pulse grenades, I would actually recommend putting those on. Considering pulse nades already create ionic traces, you're not going to need this one. So if you use pulse grenades, definitely put on Spark of Magnitude. But because I like lightning grenades the most, I'm going to use Spark of Ions, or Eon Ions. And finally, the Spark of Feedback. Taking melee damage briefly increases your outgoing melee damage. This also gives you a plus 10 resilience, which is really good on Titan. Very, very, very good aspect in my opinion, or fragment, I should say, sorry. Mainly because I like this one so much because if I'm getting in someone's face, I'm gonna shotgun ape, they're gonna melee me. And if they melee me, then I get to increase that melee damage, and I think that is definitely super, super good there. And I think it pairs really, really well with all the other stuff like Knockout. And basically, this is a melee-focused build, in my opinion, or just an aggressive build. And seeing it as an aggressive build, it's going to be good to have more damage to that melee. You might be able to get some one-tap melees if you shoulder charge. It would be difficult to get meleeed and then also shoulder charge unless they're using a throwing knife. I don't know if throwing knives count for the spark of feedback, but I'd imagine it would. So keep that in mind. But that's really it when it comes to that build. Again, weapons are subjective. You can use whatever weapons you want. But we're going to talk about our stats really quick and our mods, and that's it for the video. So I have 4 mobility here. I don't even think my mods... Oh, no, my mods are set up right. All right, cool. Anyway, I have 4 mobility. This is about all I'd want. I don't even really care to get this any higher. I don't think mobility is super important on Titan, especially with using Dune Marchers. You're going to get an increased sprint. So for me, not that important. Resilience, however, is very important. I have 9 here. I would say as a Titan, you want a minimum of 8 with however high of recovery you want. But I would say that a minimum of 8, you can get away with using 8, and I think even I could go to 8 and then throw on a discipline mod just so that I can have 8, 10, 10, but I don't know if I'm going to do that yet. I'll mess around my build a little bit later and decide that for myself. So anyway, reason why you want this high is because you're going to get your class ability energy back extremely quickly, and very, very good to have your class ability up at all times. So in my opinion, you want to juice this up pretty high. Next is recovery. I always want this on 10, especially for PvP, because you're going to recover your health back in 43% faster, which is extremely fast, and it's actually very important in PvP from able to go from one fight to the next as quick as possible. So speed is very important in Crucible, so recovery you're going to want high. As for your discipline, I actually recommend getting this high, at least to an 8, I'd say, or a 7 or something, maybe even a 6. At the lowest, I'd say a 6. But at the highest, as high as you can get it without having these stats juiced up too. So for me, I have 9 here. That gives me a 55-second ability cooldown, which is really nice. And that doesn't take into effect some of our fragments that give us increased regeneration and ion traces. So keep that in mind. But yeah, I like having a lot of grenades, considering my grenades jolt people. Getting the jolts, ionic traces, more ability energy. So for me, I like having high discipline there. As for intellect, I think this is, in my opinion, the most useless stat in the whole game. I don't like speccing into intellect very much. I would say, like, at the highest you would want is like 5. I don't think you really need to have it any higher than that. I definitely wouldn't use any of my mod slots for intellect. So for me, mine's at 2, and that's good enough for me. And as for our melee here, I have it at 6. Ideally, I would want this maybe a little higher or lower. It really doesn't matter to me that much. I'm getting my melee back every 56 seconds. But honestly, for me, I use that melee very, very aggressive. And because I use my melee so aggressive, I'm going to get it back because of our Spark of Regen or Recharge or whatever it's called. And it's just very, very good, in my opinion, to have decent strength with Shoulder Charge. So I have it at 6, and I think that's good enough for me. And talking about our mods, we are running here. We have Kinetic Siphon. Basically, that's going to create an orb every single time, or every single time we get rapid kinetic kills, which is good. And Taking Charge. When I pick up an orb, I become Charge of Light. As for our gloves here, I'm running Fastball, Focusing Strike. So basically, when I get class ability energy, when I cause damage with a melee attack, really good because I am getting people's faces and I'm meleeing a lot. And I'm also running Quick Charge. I'll become Charge of Light off rapidly defeating people with shotguns or fusion rifles, and I get a ready speed increase for my shotguns and SMGs, which is important in my opinion because I use those all the time. As for our chest piece, I have Unflinching Hand Cannon Aim. This just makes my hand cannon aim a little bit more precise. It makes it easier to hit people under flinch. So very good there. And also running Radiant Light. So when I cast my super, nearby allies become charged with light. But it gives me also plus 20 to strength, which I think is extremely important on Titan, is having decent strength. As for our Dune Marchers here, I am running Absolution. So when I pick up an Orb of Power, I get all my ability cooldowns reduced, which is extremely good. And then we also have Powerful Friends, which when I become charged with light, nearby allies also become charged with light if they are not already. And it gives me plus 20 to mobility, free stats, equal free wins. And then finally, here is our mark here. I am running Utility Kickstart, so when my class ability energy is fully expended, I gain class ability energy. So I use that, I use my thruster, I get more thruster energy back than normal. And then I also run Amped Up, so I'm going to stay amplified longer. And finally, using High Energy Fire, so when I am charged with light, I get a bonus to my weapon damage. So I get a little bit more forgiveness in the Crucible when using things like hand cannons or pulse rifles or whatever you want to use. So that's really it when it comes to my Arc 3.0 Titan build. Like I've said, this is super fun to use, and I really, really like using this build a lot for shotgun aping. I definitely recommend you use it in that way. So if you guys use the build, let me know what you guys thought about it. I personally really, really enjoy this one. But that's been it for me. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.